commented underneath that video, "We want to see Steph make 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please."
The shooting specialist for Steph Curry has been highlighting Caitlin Clark on social media lately. Steph even sported her signature Nike kicks. Now, rumors suggest she could be practicing with his personal skills coach during this break. Meanwhile, Caitlin just posted a reply to Steph's presser that has the public guessing about their bond. Their relationship is clearly intensifying, and the timing is noteworthy for several reasons. Before we analyze this, a quick poll. If Caitlin Clark is truly training with Steph's personal coach this winter, does that make her an even bigger threat for the upcoming year? Or is this merely off-season excitement?
He has seen it. But Caitlin Clark commented underneath that video, "We want to see Steph make 12 threes a game. Stop grabbing him, please." And she never really, she would say when something was a foul or to, a complaint to that ilk. But Caitlin hasn't come out and said, what they're doing isn't basketball that often.
Leave your comments below, as this crossover is quite significant. Basically, Caitlin Clark has been very active on her accounts lately, which isn't unusual for her. But she mentioned something recently that drew everyone's focus and has the world wondering about what's occurring behind the curtain. Steph Curry did an interview following a game where the Hornets were face guarding him as if their seasons depended on it. And Caitlin left a note on the clip. Her post, "We want to see Steph hit 12 triples a game. Please stop grabbing him." Now, on the surface, that's just an athlete supporting a peer. But when you are Caitlin Clark and you make that specific remark about that specific problem, people pay attention, because clutching and holding and defensive harassment on the perimeter has been one of the core issues of Caitlin's WNBA career so far. Let's look at what Steph actually noted in that interview, because it is vital. He was asked if it vexes him being guarded the way the Hornets played him, and his reply was great. He said there's a part of him that resists it because it's not real basketball.
In a regular season game too?
There's a part of you that fights it just because it's not real basketball, but there's also a part of it that's flattering. Just knowing that you demand that much attention, and also what it does to create shots for other guys on the floor. So, and I've seen it all, so I know if that's how they want to guard, how I can be effective, not let it take me out of the game, but also kind of use it to our advantage as a team. And then it's also funny at times just how egregious it is. There's one possession, I gotta find it. I actually made the footage. I actually stayed back in the backcourt a long time on purpose just to see how long Sion would stay with me. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, there's a clip of Colin Sexton covering you when you left the court.
Yeah, we both knew what we were doing. We were having fun.
Last one over.
But there is also a part that's nice because it shows how much respect and how it opens shots for friends. That phrase, "it's not real basketball," is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Steph is politely arguing that when defenses resort to merely clutching and grabbing and shadowing instead of actually playing defense, it is not a valid basketball tactic. It is desperation disguised as toughness. And Caitlin Clark understands exactly how that feels, because she encountered it nonstop during her rookie WNBA run. She was doubled more than any other player to start the calendar. Opponents would send 2 and sometimes 3 defenders toward her the moment she passed the logo.
Caitlin Clark, and you get the attention that she does, you're going to get outsized defensive attention. In a rookie season, she was blitzed more to start that year than any team. A lot of that is strategy. They know what she can do. They know where she has the ball, all that stuff. But then there's part of it like trying to prove a point against her. And then, of course, when you want to rough up the other team's star, that's what coaches preach. If the refs are going to let you do it, you do it. It's something that became a point of contention across her WNBA career so far, with Stephanie White, who probably deployed that strategy with the Connecticut Sun, saying that too much contact is allowed on the perimeter. And that's a thing across the WNBA, and it became a theme across the WNBA. But, Caitlin is allowed to be grabbed and held and all those things. Even to the point where I remember there was a broadcast where Rebecca Lobo pointed out, like, there's a foul, and there's a foul, and there's a foul, like Oprah giving.
She was clutched, held, bumped, and shoved on almost every play. Some of that is valid defensive planning. When you are competing against the top shooter in the sport, you change your schemes. But some of it crossed into the type of contact that would be whistled as fouls in any other situation. And the WNBA officials simply let it pass. Stephanie White, who is currently coaching Caitlin in Indiana, but was leading a rival team in Connecticut last year, even confessed that excessive contact is permitted on the perimeter across the league. Rebecca Lobo did a game where she highlighted various uncalled fouls on Caitlin in quick succession, like she was Oprah gifting vehicles. You get a foul, you get a foul, you get a foul. But Caitlin herself has been mostly silent about it publicly. She has vented about specific hits, like the Kennedy Carter shoulder check that was clearly not a hoop play. But she hasn't gone on record stating the way she is guarded is not real basketball. She hasn't turned it into a public battle like some other stars and coaches have. So when she replies to Steph's interview saying stop grabbing him, that feels meaningful, because she is not just protecting Steph. She's talking for herself without overtly making it about herself. It is a clever, tactful way to state her case without appearing like she's whining or seeking special favors. And frankly, she is right. Fans do want to see Steph hit 12 threes a night. That is why he moves jerseys and fills seats, and has personal shoes that fans queue up to purchase. His shooting is what makes him unique. And when defenses resort to just grabbing him to halt that, it makes the game worse for everyone watching. The same logic applies to Caitlin. Fans want to see her fire from 35 feet and hit step-back jumpers and make magic passes. That is what makes her unique. That is why attendance spiked when she arrived. That is why her games earned major TV slots. When defenses just maul her and officials don't whistle it, the entertainment suffers. The WNBA has oddly marketed extreme physicality as a badge of prestige, like somehow permitting more contact makes the league stronger or more valid. But that is flawed logic. The NBA doesn't permit that level of clutching and holding specifically because they want their icons to flourish. They realize that people tune in to witness scoring brilliance, not defensive mugging. Kelsey Plum has vented about this. Becky Hammon has vented about this. Natalie Nakazi has vented about this. Stephanie White has vented about this. It is a league-wide problem that impacts how perimeter guards, especially top shooters, are able to play. But the fact that Caitlin hasn't been loud about it until now is intriguing. She's been tactful, likely because she knows that complaining about calls can make you look weak or like you're making excuses. But replying to Steph's drama gives her cover to make the same point without it being about her. Now let's discuss the other ties between Caitlin and Steph that have the public talking. Steph sported Caitlin's Nike sneakers recently. His skills coach has been mentioning her online. And based on clues, there is a high likelihood that Caitlin is practicing with Steph's personal trainer during the winter. If that is true, and we lack proof but the clues are strong, that's a huge shift. Steph Curry's trainer works with the finest shooter in sports history. The methods, drills, and training plans that have kept Steph at a top level for over a decade would be immensely helpful for Caitlin. And it makes perfect sense. Caitlin is already the premier shooter in women's hoops, but if she can polish her form even further, boost her shot preparation, and add new moves to her skill set based on what has worked for Steph, she becomes even more dangerous. The link between them also works from a marketing angle. Nike has invested heavily in both stars. They are both smaller guards who changed how fans think about scoring range. They both face similar defensive focus and physical harassment. The synergy is clear. Steph has always been an ally of women's basketball. He has discussed his daughters playing and how he wants them to see idols in the WNBA. Caitlin represents the type of star who could lead the next generation, the way Steph led kids to start firing from the logo. That shared value and style creates deep mutual respect. But there's also a drive here. Caitlin isn't happy with just being good. She wants to be legendary. She wants to earn rings. And if training with Steph's group during the winter gives her an advantage, she's bright enough to use that chance. The timing of this is noteworthy too. Caitlin made another social media remark recently that drew eyes. Elijah Sarrett, a player for Indiana who is competing in the football national championship, showed that his pet is named Caitlin Clark. CC replied stating, "Both the athlete and the dog are welcome at the arena this year." This year. Not if there's a season. Just a casual remark that games are occurring. She is sure the CBA talks are going to succeed, and the WNBA season is starting as planned, and she's likely right, because she is the biggest leverage point the athletes have. The whole reason WNBA stars are in position to bargain for huge raises is because of what occurred during Caitlin's debut year. Attendance grew, rating records fell, gear sales went through the roof. Brand sponsors who ignored the WNBA for years suddenly wanted in. That's all because of Caitlin and the focus she gave the league. So when she says there is going to be a season this year, that has power. Because if Caitlin felt there was a real risk of no season, she would be more cautious with her words. The fact that she's casually inviting fans to courtside games suggests she knows something the public doesn't about where those talks stand. Caitlin spoke at the USA camp recently and stated, "None of the CBA items matter if they aren't playing." She called it the most vital moment in WNBA history and said, "Stars need to fight for what they believe in, but also bend on other issues." That's very mature and logical for someone in their sophomore year. But it also shows the reality that Caitlin knows her worth. She's the catalyst behind the players' leverage. Her voice should carry weight in these talks because she is the one driving the revenue that makes higher pay possible. The gap between the NBA and WNBA on calling fouls is wide. The NBA has issues with stars flopping and selling contact that isn't there. The WNBA has the reverse issue where real contact gets ignored. Both are bad for the sport, just in different ways. Steph saying that extreme face guarding and clutching isn't real basketball should ring true for WNBA leaders. Because he is right. Real basketball is about talent, space, motion, and skill. When defenses can just clutch shooters and stop them from getting open looks without penalties, the product suffers. Caitlin faced this nonstop. Teams would pick their most physical guard for her with orders to just make her annoyed. Shove her off screens, clutch her on cuts, hand check her bringing the ball up, and officials would let most of it go because there is this strange vibe in the WNBA that praises physicality even when it turns into dirty play. The Kennedy Carter hit was the clearest proof. That wasn't defense. That was just a cheap blow meant to send a message. And Caitlin called it out as not a basketball move. But that was big enough that she felt okay talking. The more subtle clutching and holding that occurs, every play is harder to flag without appearing petty. So replying to Steph's post gives her a path to address it. She's not whining about her own treatment. She is backing another star who faces similar hurdles. But anyone watching knows she is talking about her own life too. The "we want to see Steph hit 12 threes a game" note is very telling. Because that is exactly what fans want from Caitlin too. They want to see her shoot from 35 feet. They want to see her shatter records. They want to see offensive skill, not defensive mauling. If the WNBA wants to expand, and they clearly do based on new teams and media deals, they need to let their icons shine. That means calling the sport in a way that lets top offensive stars show their moves. It doesn't mean removing contact entirely, but it means finding the right mix. The bond between Caitlin and Steph is only going to grow if she is indeed training with his shooting specialist. The methods that have kept Steph elite into his late 30s could prolong Caitlin's career and help her avoid some of the damage that comes with being the target of every defense. Imagine Caitlin returning next year with sharper form, better shot prep, and new tools in her kit based on what she saw from Steph's camp. She's already the most lethal offensive threat in the WNBA. If she gets even better, defenses will have to use even more extreme plans to slow her down, which brings us back to the whistle question. Because as Caitlin gets better and more elite, the physical pressure is likely to grow unless the league acts, and her reply on Steph's interview might be the first move in that debate. She's too bright to start a public war complaining about calls. That never works. and often hurts you. But by linking herself with Steph and discussing the same problems he faces, she puts heat on the league without appearing like the villain. The fact that Stephanie White, who utilized those physical defensive moves against Caitlin in Connecticut, is now leading her in Indiana adds another layer. White knows exactly how vital that plan was, and she also knows it's not good for the sport long term. Having her as a voice for better officiating has weight, because she is not just protecting her star, she's noticing a major problem. Caitlin Clark, training with Steph Curry's shooting coach and flagging the same tactics they both face, isn't luck. This is about building her skill and building her power to change how the WNBA is called. If you want more news on Caitlin's offseason and what it means for next year, hit that like button and sub. The WNBA better be ready.